Saddle up your horses.
What's going on, everybody? It is another episode of the Mainly Broncos podcast, and we are a day and a week until the NFL draft. Can you guys believe it? Like, we are. I mean, obviously there's been some moments where like we've kind of taken a bit of a week off, if you will, or a couple weeks off here and there. But we are at the point where we are so close to the NFL draft, and we definitely are going to have you guys covered over here at the MHRT Network and Mainly Broncos podcast. First things first, hit the subscribe button for the MHRT Network page over there on YouTube. There are 3 different features also for a membership that is on there on the YouTube channel of MHRT Network. Feel free to hit that subscribe button for whichever fits your fancy. I believe there's a $2.99, $6.99, and $12.99. So feel free to select whichever one suits you. Also hit the subscribe button for the Mainly Broncos YouTube page. And we'll continue to build up that one as well. We do a bunch of short form that is advertised and shown, if you will, just shown over there on TikTok, Instagram. We also do YouTube shorts over there on the Mainly Broncos podcast. We have a great show lined up for you today. We are going to be doing a deeper look at prospects that you yourself as watchers of the Mainly Broncos podcast and frankly MHRT Network, of just players that simply could be of interest for the Broncos in this draft. And we're not talking about just pick 62 and pick 111 and 108. We're talking about just the entire draft in general. Players that could be of interest for the team going forward. As far as a guest for hopping on the show tonight, we did reach out to Andy NFL, so to see if he wants to hop on the show. So who knows? We might get a surprise drop-in from Andy over here on the show. So first things first, let's kick it off with you guys. Brandon and Jordan, how you guys feeling? We are a week away.
I'm doing great. I feel like it doesn't feel as monumental as I think it would in most years, just because we don't have a first round pick. But you know, it doesn't matter because we got our guy. But I'm still excited. I think there's definitely some guys, like even with the picks we have remaining, even though we don't have first, we don't have a third. Like there's definitely an ability for us to like be able to actually improve this team still. And I'm excited to see what happens because it's going to be the cupboard is not, the war chest is not deep, right? We don't have an embarrassment of wealth of picks to use on, you know, trying to shore up the few holes that we have left. So seeing, you know, what happens and if they're able to get, you know, get creative with, do they make some trades? Do we see one of the wide receivers potentially be dealt, which I don't want to see that happen, but I know that's kind of been going around. So I'm excited to get some more Broncos news that it's going to be coming down the pipeline. And I don't know for sure what's going to happen, but there's been some, I think, more rumors from Aqib Talib that something's going to happen on draft day. And he was also kind of the one that, besides Jordan was the first person to scoop the Dolphins trade. But you know, Aqib
Not
Talib,
patting ourselves on the back or anything.
it was right after him. So I'm curious to know what that's about and if that's something. So
okay, I'll tell you what. Let's lead off with that first, and then we'll talk about it because of the things of not, if you will, not doing a show for about a week or so. That's probably the most important thing to kind of lead off with. Is that Aqib Talib on a show that he does with Skip Bayless and some others. I believe it's the Gridiron.
I think so.
He dropped on, you know, another, you know, hey, there is another big move coming. right? Like there is another big move coming. Now the question really kind of lends itself to the idea of, well, what is big in the relative form of big, right? So I'll lend it off to you, Jordan.
Yeah, I've been trying to like piece some little tidbits here and there to see what I can come up with. I mean, the only guys that like come to mind are like a few tight ends, and then when it comes to like maybe trading for a running back,
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't know if this is considered a big, but he does have the name and the recognition for it, and that's Sean Payton's old friend Alvin Kamara over there with New Orleans. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that is technically a big name, and I still think he has a few things in the tank for this year and maybe even next year. But I'm very, very curious to see what Denver does if they do pull through with whatever they got going on.
It's probably is open to interpretation, Brandon, on like what your definition of big is, right? Because like for me, Kamara, and continuing what Jordan was saying, Kamara's a big name.
Yeah.
But I don't know at this point in his career if he's a big trade.
I would agree. I think it's drama and excitement for the sake of drama and excitement, and that's just kind of also who Akeem Talib is. Bless his heart, he's a character, but there really isn't. We don't have the capital to make a big trade, right? I mean, like Jalen Waddle, that was our big trade. We're not. If you're expecting something on that level, like that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I would agree. Like Kamara, I don't think is a big name anymore, but I do think that's, by all accounts, the most likely thing that could happen. I think to me, it really comes down to what do we give up? Because at this stage, like if we're trading for him, I don't know. If you're going to say, okay, we give the Saints back the 4th round pick that they sent us,
and David Putney,
and we get Kamara, like I'm like, I don't know. I would almost rather have that as ammo to trade into the 3rd. If someone slides that we like that's there, because this is such a good linebacker class and such a good
hypothetically
class,
trading
both
back
of the main like things that we need, or trade back. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting. I wouldn't hate that move, but I do think that's the most likely candidate. Yeah. And
let's
I don't know if I consider that big, but
I think if you go kind of through it position wise, it falls under position of needs, right? Like it would fall under position of needs, which still to this point is tight end, right? Like you would probably throw tight end. There is a need. And for me, number one would fall into the category that number one is tight end. So if they wanted to trade for a tight end and a big name, well, it just so happens that Jay actually dropped in, and this might be the two that we actually talk about the most, and it's Kyle Pitts and Sam Laporta. Those would fly under the category of a big trade. Kyle Pitts probably, and this is just the way I would see it, is that would have to involve Evan Ingram in some sort of shape or form, just because of the way that Kyle Pitts is organized and age-wise. He's also due for an extension. So if you trade for Kyle Pitts, you're going to have to give him right around stuff that he would be worth. Laporta, same thing. He would definitely do for an extension. But if you look stylistically with everything the Broncos would be wanting to be interested in, with the tight end that you could line out, in the big slot, Sam Laporta is probably, in my opinion, the number one choice between Kyle Pitts and actually I should say it this way. Laporta is the choice for me, and it's not even close.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would rather have Laporta as well. If it is for a tight end, I hope it is for Laporta. I mean, I can see them going after Pitts as well, but I kind of think that his role will be kind of intertwined with Ingram. They're kind of the same player. But, Laporta would be amazing. I didn't think of it, but I just thought of it now. would they trade for a linebacker?
Well,
Who
there is
who would actually be available?
there is
TJ Edwards from the Bears.
I was actually thinking of there was a certain team they just did business with.
Yeah, Jordan Brooks would be interesting. He would.
Well, because like
With
the way I think about it too is like they just did a deal with Waddle, right? And so if there's any team at this point who would probably understand the worth of whether or not a player is on the said trade block or not, it would be Denver. Because I'm sure that conversely, in a simple conversation of like, hey, I hear Jordan Brooks is available. Is he available? Or, as far as, with some teams, or Devon ETN, HN. There's been some rumors percolating that he actually might be available. Is that true? Right? Just a simple conversation that leads into the whole Jalen Waddle starting, and so I have to think that the Broncos at least name dropped the idea of a Jordan Brooks or a Devon Achane, in the whole conversations, maybe the last 2 years, but even what happened before the trade actually happened. Is it, hey, these guys available?
Of those names, I would agree. I do think that Sam Laporta is like my number one, top of the list. But like, what do you think the compensation for him would look like? Because to me, I don't know if a second gets that done. Like, I don't think that's enough. I'm not saying that they would potentially want a first, although maybe. But obviously, like him going into needing an extension kind of hurts his value a little bit. But I'm just like, man, with those like bigger names, just what is the price tag? Because we don't have a ton. And like the one place you don't really want to, I would say like touching 2027 draft capital right now, unless you're truly like going for, we're going to win the Super Bowl this year, which like, you know what, all power to them. If they want to do that, I understand it. But I think holding on to as much 2027 capital as you can, especially that first, is going to net you so much because of the kind of class that's going to be. Now, they're probably not going to be picking high enough to like get a king's ransom and trading down if someone is wanting to move up.
But
as far as
someone trading in, I think next year's 2027 class could be the best value for a team that is in the 24 to that 32 range, because teams are going to probably want to come in and get another first round caliber talent, and in doing so they give up first round. So I agree. I just think for the Broncos' sake, it's evident they have thrown their chips in.
I mean, that's true.
Jalen Waddle trade, so it does beg the question.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if like, I guess I don't know, and Jordan, you might not know more than this, more about this than we do. With Achane, I gotta think like if that was on the table and that was potentially going to happen, you think it would have happened as part of the Jalen Waddle deal. You don't know for sure. Obviously, there's no way to know for sure. Maybe he wasn't available then. Things have changed. They're starting to like kind of understand, well, we need to strip this down to the studs. We got to get rid of, everything that we can move for good assets. But then you look at the moves they've made this offseason, and like you're going to give your new Malik Willis nothing at all to work with. So it just, I don't know, it's a little interesting that could be available now when it wasn't really before. But that would be like of the two options, I love Laporta. Don't get me wrong. I love Laporta.
Yeah.
I think if I could choose,
he's not a first. I'll say that he's not a first round pick for me. But it's
Achane is like top of the list, absolute top of the list in every capacity for the player that I would want if we are going to be doing like a trade of that caliber.
Mm-hmm. Jordan?
Yeah, I don't think Achane's available. I mean, things can change, but I don't see the Dolphins doing it at all. And if they do, the Broncos have what the Dolphins would want, which you can easily give away Sade Barron. You can give him Troy, and you can give him, a pick or two, and that can easily get it done, in my opinion. So I just don't see that happening. I think the Dolphins are going to keep him. They view him as more than a running back because he's lined up out wide for them a few times throughout the season. But yeah, HN would be the dream, but I think he's going to be a Dolphin for a long time. And if they don't pay him, then that's when things get interesting. But I think they are.
Yeah, it begins that gray area of, with a rebuilding team, you at least need something that can put button seats.
Yeah.
And HN is definitely going to be putting some butts in seats. There is another name. Granted, that could probably be on that HN level regarding capital, and it's Dexter Lawrence. But apparently, Dexter Lawrence wants 10 a year. Or, sorry, 10. I believe, what is it, 10 or something as far as. But he wants $30 million a year. He wants, I guess that thing is like he wants $30 million a year for a defensive tackle. Now, you could argue, based on the way things are going, he could probably be worth that much, and probably is deservedly wanting to be paid around that. That's pretty steep, along with HN.
Yeah, it is a steep price to play. I mean, listen, he's a very – I'm not saying he's a bad player at all. I mean, Dexter Lawrence is probably one of the best at his position, if not the best. But to pay that's I'd rather be holding on that money for something else.
Yeah. So that kind of comes back to it.
What you were thinking of, Cam, is currently his contract makes him the 10th highest paid player at his position. Yeah. And I think he wants to be like top 3.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. But that would also be an insane trade. I don't see that happening either, but
that comes down to it. I think we have a pretty good idea that it would be the tight end position. Okay, let me take a step back. There is actually another offensive position. One, the Broncos are very comfortable in terms of probably having conversations with these set teams. One, it was a player they were heavily interested in before something happened, and he signed a franchise tag. Do they revisit the Breece Hall idea? Now, there's a caveat with that. Obviously, it's the idea of what does that do for a J.K. Dobbins, who did sign that 2-year deal. You can get out of the deal after this year. There's a lot of contracts the Broncos signed that they could get out of it after year 1. But is it one where is it? Let me just say it this way: is the big move just simply Sam Laporta or Breece Hall?
To me, it's not even remotely close. Like when you were talking about Breece Hall as like a free agent option, I was interested in that just because like you'd to pay him, yeah, but and even that I was less enthused about. But like I could talk myself into that, being a solid investment. Now, when you talk about having to also give up draft capital, that's where I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't think I would not trade for Breece Hall. Now, I do think that the tag they put on him is not exclusive, so he actually could still negotiate, I believe, although the window for this might have passed, negotiate with other teams. So like we could offer money, but the Jets would have like basically right of first refusal. I don't know if that's actually still available. I don't know if there was like a time frame on that, but I think depending on I think the tag they put on him was the non-exclusive variety. But if we're so it might not require draft capital, but if it does, I'm not into Breece Hall.
And if I'm not mistaken, Jordan, it does. It involves a first-round pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It would have to.
So, but logistically, and you look through it, those are the two names probably that would be when you kind of peel down the onion, because onions have layers. Is that it's probably Breece Hall and Sam Laporta. Those are probably those top two choices that you're probably looking at. Because the Kyle Pitts, it works. You just have a few workarounds, right? You have a few workarounds that you're going to have to deal with, which is you bring him in, you don't pay him, but then you pay him after this season, or you bring him in, you pay him, and then you move on from Evan Ingram in that same, in that same pain. It can work, but there's just a lot of workarounds. So, it's definitely gonna be something worth following because, as Talib did mention, it could be happening around the draft. So we'll see. We definitely will see. Certainly maybe what that was all entailing. So it's gonna be definitely a fun thing. Okay, so back to the draft, and back to the trading back scenarios, trading up scenarios. Let's just start first with this, because Sleeper Broncos Jordan posted something that was what is one of the favorite scenarios, or what of the things as far as in the trading scenario, and this is what we were talking about before we dove into the big move, or something that Talib was alluding to. We'll kind of go around the room, if you will. What is your favorite trade idea when it comes to the draft as it correlates to the Broncos?
My favorite trade idea would be to trade up and get Jacob Rodriguez.
But what would that consist of? Because according to Dane Brugler's Beast, and he does a phenomenal job with The Athletic, according to Dane Brugler's 7th-round mock draft, CJ Allen was taken after Jacob Rodriguez, and Jacob Rodriguez was taken at pick 37 to the Titans. So, what does getting Jacob Rodriguez mean, Jordan, where he has to be?
First of all, CJ Allen, if he's not selected in the first round, I'd be very surprised. But
Dane knows more than us.
Yes, he does. And I won't lie, I think I just looked at Todd McShay's mock draft that he dropped this morning. It's his latest one. He had his 3.0 not last week, but 2 weeks ago, and then his 4.0 this week. He also did not have CJ Allen in the first round. So, and he's well connected. So I don't know what's going on with CJ Allen's draft stock. I just don't see him going all the way down to 62. I can see Jacob Rodriguez actually going further down than CJ Allen, just because I think people are more enamored with CJ Allen and maybe his ceiling. But I think Jacob Rodriguez is the best linebacker besides the Ohio State guys. I think he's the best linebacker out there.
I'm so glad that we're talking about CJ Allen right now, because I was actually going to bring him up. I was going to bring him up when we get into more of just like players to target conversation. And the reason I was going to bring him up, and Jordan, the reason that he is so I've seen more people put CJ Allen not in the first round. I've also seen conversely more people putting Rodriguez into the first round. And I think like momentum is a real thing in the league. And like Jacob Rodriguez's momentum has been like all the way up, cranked up to 13 since
the Senior Bowl.
I think the Senior Bowl. Because he's just been absolutely tearing it up since then. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the first round. There's absolutely no way that he falls to 62. Could we get him if we trade up substantially in the second round? Sure. CJ Allen is one of those guys that I don't think he's going to get to 62. Like, don't hear what I'm not saying. I think we're going to have to still trade up for him, but I don't see it being outside the realm possibility that, maybe he gets to the 50s and we can get up there and get him. I'm not saying that will happen for sure, but I think what's driving the fall of CJ Allen is a couple different things. Obviously, the rise of Rodriguez is a big part of this. But I also think that because this is kind of an embarrassment of riches linebacker draft, that some guys that are like not splashy kind of just get missed a little bit. And I think CJ Allen is one of those. Like he's a little undersized, and he's not like an incredible athlete. The thing that I really think is causing him to slip is he tore his meniscus in November, and he has not done any athletic testing, which could be a big red flag for certain teams that really value that stuff. And they want to know like what his athletic numbers are, because he doesn't look like the most athletic guy. He's such a good player on the field. Like he's a solid linebacker. And like, don't get me wrong. Like I do want him on the Broncos, but I think that unknown scares people away a little bit. And I also think that could be what pushes him down the board enough where he could be a target that we could trade up to get. You know, it's a little bit of a long shot, because I do think that there are teams that really like the kind of player that he is, and just also the kind of person that he is, because all reports of him on that Georgia defense is just like glowing. But I think that's why you don't see him mentioned in the first round. And part of it is also because you see Rodriguez mentioned in the first round now. And Rodriguez to me is like, as much as I would love him, there's absolutely no way. There's no way we can get him. It's Sonny Styles and then Rodriguez, and that's the top two.
Actually, I'm in lockstep for the most part with you guys, because I will say this, and this is relative to J-Rod. It is very spicy, but if there's one thing I can actually say in terms of the first round draft is there's always, it seems, surprises every single year as far as stuff that happens, right? I would not be the least bit surprised if Jacob Rodriguez is in the first round, right? But to go a step further, where he's actually taken in the early 20s. Like the early 20s, or maybe even, the latter teens. And he's taken from 17 to 25, if you will. If he's taken in that range, would not be surprised and in the least bit, just because he checks so many boxes off that fans fall in love with, which is both he's a former quarterback. Obviously that is overblown or over talked about, obviously too much, but it values, right? But it matters. And then the intangibles of him at linebacker, and then everything that mattered, where you could call it luck, but just he was always around the ball. He's a turnover magnet, right? But I think for the Broncos' sake, and as far as candidates, that's the other side of this, is to what you guys have said, is that this is such a deep linebacker class that is it really worth trading up for a Jacob Rodriguez, knowing there's a Caleb Alams or there that they could take, or an Anthony Hill Jr. that they could probably take at 62 if he's there. That there's other options that they could fall in love with even more because it's that deep linebacker class.
In Mel Kiper's latest mock draft, he has CJ Allen going 33 to the Jets, so the first pick in the second round. And he has Jacob Rodriguez at 46 to the Bucks. And then actually right after him, 47, the Colts-type Anthony Hill Jr. So that's a bit interesting.
Yeah. Anthony Hill Jr., I think I've mentioned before, like I think he potentially goes in the first round, and I'm not saying that in the sense that like I think he's an incredible player. I just think he's so freakishly athletic that teams are going to fall in love with him as like this just moldable, just chess piece Adonis, because he's just like he's a freak. He's a freak athletically in the best possible way. But I also do think like he could slide into the second round as well, for sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see someone take him over CJ Allen, because he's just so physically gifted, which is kind of the area that CJ Allen lacks a little bit, even though CJ Allen is like better as a actual football player, linebacker. But Anthony Hill is just a freak of nature.
Obviously, this is kind of splitting hairs, and we've talked about it pretty ad nauseum when it comes to these three positions. But like the three top positions, right, that the Broncos still need is tight end, linebacker, and running back, right? So what I'm going to ask is kind of splitting hairs a little bit. But if you were to rank them now, as we are about a week away, one day and a week away, how would you guys put positionally your want, like the actual want that you have? Because I'm sure there's wants with tight end, linebacker, and running back. But if you were to define your wants, if you will, of the position groups of linebacker, running back, and tight end, who is the position that you want them to draft at 62 and the player you want them to draft at 62? Because I feel like there could be a difference. Like you could want a player, but it just so happens he's not a tight end linebacker.
I have conflicting answers. So Jordan, if you need a moment, I'll go first. I'm so torn because I think I could be persuaded in either direction. I do think linebacker is an incredibly big need that this team has had for an unfortunately long time.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it's tight end. It's tight until we have a tight end. It's tight end. And the reason I say that, and even the guy that I would probably want to go after at 62, even though I think 62 might even be slightly too high for this person, I think he maybe would go more day 3, but I don't see him getting to us on day 4, is taking someone like Sam Roush at 62, the tight end from Stanford. And the reason I say that, Sam Roush kind of gives you the best of 2 different areas that the Broncos need in different ways. He is, first of all, he's a wide tight end. He's an inline, hand in the dirt, blocking tight end. But he also moves in a way that you would not expect for someone of his size. And when I say someone of his size, Sam Roush is 6'7", 267 pounds. This man is absolutely gigantic. That is like freakishly large. For comparison, looking at like the past 3 big name tight ends that have come out, you got Colton Loveland was 6'5", 248. Tyler Warren was 6'5", 256. And Brock Bowers is 6'3", 243. And Sam Roush is it 6'7" or 6'7" or 6'6"? 6'6", 6'6", 267. There's too many sixes in there. And he's just such a good blocking tight end that the reason that I want him, because he's going to also improve your running game. If you have a wide tight end that can block, you're going to open up more holes in the running game, and that's going to improve what you're able to get on the ground. I would still love to have a blue chip prospect running back there, but that's just not going to happen. This is not the draft class for it. There are not that many good players at running back in this draft. So the best way to improve the running game is to get a guy like Roush that you can use to free up holes. And he also can move in a way that, again, is just surprising for someone that's that size. And I'm surprised he didn't get used more in the passing game. Like, he can also be a weapon for you in the passing game. And you could probably even split him out wide, because when you put him in line, he's so big, you have to respect that he's such a good blocker. They're going to have to put someone on him for the threat of like the run game in there when they see him in line. But then you can just leak him out wide, and he can kind of be, I'm not going to say he's like Eli Stowers big slot, but he's he moves in a way that you just don't expect with a guy of that size, that he's going to be faster than the guy that they put on him, and he's going to be able to make some stuff happen in the passing game. He's not like Kenyon Sadiq in the passing game, right? I'm not saying he's like insane. He's not Travis Kelce in the passing game, but I think he gives you both in a way that it helps the offense in two different ways that we need. And that's why I would probably go with tight end and go with him at 62. I think it's maybe a little rich for him, but he's not getting to the 4th round.
Yeah, when it comes to tight ends for me, there's only 2 guys I really see like the Broncos getting, or I would want. It would be Eli Stowers and then Max Clare. I don't think Stowers is going to go to the Broncos. I think he'll be drafted high in the 2nd round.
Where do you view him, by the way, Jordan? Because there's a lot of people, right? There was that report that came out, and it certainly sounded like Mike Liss was answering my question without mentioning my name. when I put it there on social media where I said, is he a wide receiver or is he tight end? There's a lot of people with the report that said that they view Stowers as a wide receiver.
Yeah, I can see why, but I think he's gonna be another Evan Ingram, but just better. But I see him exactly like the way like they talk about Ingram. Is he more of a receiver or a tight end? I think he's gonna be more of a tight end in my opinion than Evan Ingram is then. So, but I would love Stowers or Claire. I don't think Stowers is realistic at this point. Max Claire is more realistic. That would be pretty awesome, at least for me. I like his game. And then the only other tight end I would entertain would be the kid from Michigan. I think he has. I think he has a little something to him. But
Not a Roush fan.
I'm not. I won't say I'm not a fan. I mean, I don't know. This tight end class is a bit. I don't know. It doesn't move me. If I'm being quite honest, like the whole class in general. It's not. Okay. I think it's Kenyon Sadiq, and then it's just Stowers.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. I mean, it's a. I think the thing is it's a deep class, but it's Sadiq, and then you have the basically like the people that is like the great, like really, really good value between like Stowers and then like maybe 8 other players, like 9 other players, if that, and like even more. So I think that's what kind of makes it so deep is that you have that at the top who's going to be in your first round, but then you have kind of like pick your poison of whoever it is that you want. Like for instance, you were mentioning Sam Roush, right, Brandon? Well, you can get another guy like that a little bit later in a Borkature or even in Eli Reardon, the same height, right? Reardon, same height, little bit underwhelming when it comes to his overall tape, but you can see the athletic profile of Reardon. Where it's like, okay, do I want to work with Roush or do I want to work with a guy who's got probably the exact same athletic profile, but there's some stuff worked with where we can work with him a little bit more and stuff and really mold him into that. And Borkature's the same way. So
yeah. It was just for me, like the tight end class, like it is what it is. Like it would just be more depth guys. Like it won't be anybody that will make an immediate impact, at least in my opinion, like as a rookie and stuff. So I do hope though that they do draft an offensive tackle early, whether that's at 62 or it's with the next pick.
I'm glad you brought up Reardon because I do like Reardon, but I just want to wax poetic slightly more here about my guy Sam because this is actually freaky. Okay. Eli Reardon is also 6'6". He's 245. Okay, great. He had a 1.6 10-yard split and a 36 inch vertical jump and a 10.3 broad jump at 6'6", 245. At 6'6", 267, Sam Roush had a 1.61 10-yard split, a 38.5 vertical jump, and a 10'6" broad jump at 267.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying.
Dom mentions, do we actually think Laporte is realistic? I don't know about realistic, but I think the way we're kind of defining it is that in the Talib defining it of a big move, he's the only one that's realistic. Probably as far as a trade itself, I don't think so. Like I don't think the trade is real. I will say this though, one of the things that can bring, we probably could have said this too, one of the things that will bring market down for a player, whether he's really good or not, is the effect of a deep class, right? And this tight end class, contrary to what Jordan was just talking about, I do think it's relatively a deep class. So if there is a tight end where they do take Kenyon Sadiq with their pick, right? Because it's funny, I thought about that. It could spark, right? Or what? Excuse me. Depending on when they take a player, like they don't have to take Kenyon Sadiq, but they could take a player in the second round that's a tight end, And it would beg the question, well, what is Laporta worth? Because it could bring the value down where maybe you just simply send one of your force and some mid-round capital, or whatever in the future, to the Lions for Sam Laporta.
I don't think that's getting it done.
But still, though,
you'd have to give them a second.
But still, though, that the value and the overall stuff can go down if they're going after a player still in that second round. That still can beg the question of like, okay, well, where does that put Laporta then?
It can. I just think Laporta is a proven commodity at tight end in a league that is just desperate for proven commodities at tight end. Like, they just do not grow on trees. They've been getting a little bit more common, I'd say, recently, which has been trending upwards, but he's only 25 years old still. Like, I think you're not going to get him with anything lower than, I mean, maybe a round 3 pick would do it, maybe, because he's needing a contract, but we don't have a round 3 pick, so.
Oh yeah, I was thinking day 3. So I guess, Tom, to answer the question, he's the only one we would think is realistic. It's just in the relative terms of realistic and the trade itself, I don't think so. So, all right, there is one tight end though we didn't get a chance to talk about that I do like. I don't know if he'll be taken at 62. You guys never mentioned his name, but it's Oscar Delp. I mean, Oscar Delp.
Actually, he is the other tight end that I'm very interested in. I forgot completely.
I do like Oscar Delp.
Yeah.
And he's so weird. Granted, there's a lot of tight ends in this class that are like the tape and everything doesn't exactly back up the player they can be at the NFL. There's a lot of those tight ends like that, right? Like we're talking about Eli Reardon, right? He didn't exactly get used at Notre Dame. Nate Borkature didn't exactly get used at Texas A&M and Nebraska, right? Oscar Delp, he was kind of a product of the system, right, down there at Georgia. But it's pretty evident when you see him and you see the way he moves in some of the clips. He is a bona fide NFL player at tight end. Also, what is it about tight ends in Georgia that wear the QB band? That are just really good at the position, because Oscar Delp is that same player where he's adopting the Brock Bowers logic, where he's wearing the QB band, down there at Georgia, and he turns out to be one of the better tight ends. It's just something where the tight end, in air quotes, is the true quarterback of that team.
I am pretty surprised that Oscar Delp wasn't fed in that offense like they did with Brock Bowers. I'm not saying Oscar Delp is Brock Bowers, but he does have kind of that same explosive profile. I think his tape is a little bit more limiting and his arms are shorter, but I am pretty confused why they didn't use it more.
Would you take it at 62?
I don't think I would take him at 62. I don't think you'd have to take him at 62.
Talking about Oscar Delp, right?
Yes.
Mel Kiper has him going 54 to the Eagles.
Really? That's much higher than I would have expected.
Wow. I would. I would.
They go to 62. I did not expect them to be that high.
PFF, obviously, their big board, they hate Oscar Delp.
Yeah, I mean, man, they might as well put him as an undrafted free agent.
So, I don't know. It's a very interesting position. Regarding running back, that's the other one. Running back is the other one that is fascinating because it kind of gets to be your own cup of tea when it comes to 62. Wouldn't be upset with 62, and I think that's where you follow it to the value of 108 and 111 with guys like Emmett Johnson and Katron Allen, right? Although I wouldn't. Here's the one thing I'll say again is that I would not be surprised if there's a run on certain positions. It will cause players to be overdrafted, and I wouldn't be surprised if Emmett Johnson and Katron Allen is taken a little bit higher than we would expect. Meaning, I wouldn't be surprised, and it sounds scary, I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos trading back into the day 2, right, of the draft, and they select one of the players, if you will, that could be a running back there, and it just happens to be a player like an Emmett Johnson and a Katron Allen, just because they fall in love with it, and they realize, right, and they realize that this is the run on certain players and positions. We got to take this chance here.
Yeah, I mean, for me, for the running backs, like the 2 Penn State guys, I would take in a heartbeat. I mean, Katron Allen, I think, would be a great complementary piece into the backfield. He's kind of like a David Montgomery type guy, and then Singleton was being talked about before the college football season, maybe sneaking into the Heisman conversation
Last year,
That's how.
like 2024.
Yeah, like that's how highly regarded he was talked about. And he's had his fair share of ups and downs, but I mean,
He did break his ankle at the Senior Bowl.
that is also true. So we can also see maybe a slide with him as well. But I'd still take a chance. Like the talent is there. You just need to get it out of him. And I can trust that coming out of the Broncos.
The thing is, Katron will be drafted higher than him.
Yeah. But I will say I think Singleton has a higher upside than him.
Mm-hmm. Brandon?
One of the guys that he's kind of more of a sleeper later round guy, like probably round 5. Definitely a day 3 guy that you don't see talked about a ton is Jamari Taylor from Virginia. He's pretty small. He's like 5'9", but he is like kind of like the Thunder. When you look at like the Lightning and the Thunder running back duo tandem explanation, I guess. I'd say he kind of fits in more of like the Thunder category, which you could argue we already have that. But I think like for a guy who probably could be a 3-down back in the NFL, getting him to be your running back 3 to just kind of spell and keep like basically spell the rest of the room and keep everyone's legs fresh, so you're not having to give like a bunch of carries to any one player. I think Jamari Taylor could be an interesting person to look at. That's going to be a little bit later. Obviously, this is not a fantastic running back class, but I just think he's pretty explosive for being 5'9".
Yeah, I will say this. I was talking about this with someone, today about it, and it's like pretty much after Katron Allen and Emmett Johnson, I mean, there's players. There are some definite players. Like you mentioned Singleton, right? The other Penn State teammate. There's players, but the question is just there's more dart throws that you kind of are working with, after that. But like after Emmett Johnson and Katron Allen, that drop-off is kind of big, and so that kind of begs the question at 62, are the Broncos going to be going with, a player like a Mike Washington or a Jonah Coleman, if they wanted to go so at 62? Obviously, stylistically from a back, they fit the profile of probably a very different back that the Broncos have in the room. Now, here's the caveat of this, is that the Broncos could view it differently. They could view where they just simply want the best running back in room possible, right? But they also know that they want to make sure of life after J.K. Dobbins for players that can handle the workload. Sometimes those Derrick Henry-sized running backs that are 6'2", 6'3", we don't know if they can handle the workload or not, right? We don't know if they can handle the workload or not. They have a feature, right, in offenses, but we don't know if they can actually be the thing, because we know that Derrick Henry is a unicorn when it comes to stuff like that.
Jonah Coleman screams, this is the Broncos, one of the Broncos round 4 draft picks. Like that's what he seems like to me. He is not the fastest player, and he's even smaller than Jamari Taylor. He's 5'8", but he can pass protect. He pass protects his ass off. So I think he's probably someone to keep an eye on. I think it's probably going to be round 4. But to me, he just like that's. If I had to just throw a random dart of like, this is a player we're picking in round 4, that's who I'd throw it at.
Yeah, I actually like Jonah Coleman from Washington. I've seen a couple of his clips, and I've seen a lot of people talk highly about him. I was getting introduced to him earlier. I think it was like last week or 2 weeks ago, and I like what I see from him.
I forgot to mention he also has lost 1 fumble in 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think Jonah Coleman's taken a lot higher than round 4.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I do. I think the players that I think you would probably see at more 62 or that range or close to it.
You think he'd be 62? Wow.
Yeah. I actually think that it would end up being both Mike Washington and Jonah Coleman around there. It may be later. It may be later. Like it may be, 69 or, in the 70s, but like they'll be within that pick range where Jonah Coleman and Mike Washington will probably be lumped kind of together. And I think that's why, I hate to say it, but like if you're talking a player that you want to use as a dart throw, but also is different in terms of the play style by just one aspect, and that's Emmett Johnson, the RJ Harvey, in the 4th round. I mean, he's really the player that really does scream Sean Payton type of running back, right? Like he really does. I mean, the only thing that he does different than RJ Harvey is a more physical runner between the tackles, right? Like he is a more physical runner between the tackles than RJ. And he's not talked about when it comes to that. Like people just assume with what they see that he's another RJ Harvey, and it's just he's so much more of a physical runner than people give him credit for. And so he will be there at the 4th round. And from everything, according to Blue Bridge Bronco, the Broncos were at Nebraska games 3 times this year. I can assure you it was not because of Dane Key, and it was not because of Dylan Raiola, and it was not because of, anything like that. It was because of Emmett Johnson. So I don't know. It's just really hard to ignore the fact that the Broncos very will likely take, obviously, Jadarian Price, if he's just so happens there. But like I'm pretty confident that the Broncos will be taking one of the 5 or 6 running backs. Very confident in that. Meaning Jonah Coleman, Mike Washington, even Katron Allen, Emmett Johnson, Mike Washington, even Jadarian Price if he just so happens to be there. But like of any of those 6, you throw a name in there, I'm pretty confident the Broncos will take at least one of them.
I'm pretty sure that the reason we were there 4 times was actually for cornerback Kier Wright, just because Sean Payton.
Okay. It's Sierra Wright. It's Sierra Wright.
I don't know how to pronounce his name.
And get it right. He was okay. Actually, this is a fun fact. Did you guys know that Sierra Wright was the actor in Space Jam 2 who played LeBron's son?
What?
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't actually know anything about him. I just looked up what corners are eligible for the draft from Nebraska. So,
also, by the way, he's a nickel corner, so that fits. He's a nickel corner, probably projected wise. So yeah, that totally fits. Jordan's gonna be doing research right now of what it's like. Sierra Wright.
Yeah.
Space Jam 2.
Then I had that on my bingo card.
Yeah. Yeah, he transferred away from USC to just kind of get back to playing football, and he kind of turns out into a draftable player, if you will. But I'm pretty confident they will at least take one of those 6 players. I say that, though, and watch it end up being the true dart throw of them all, and them getting Eli Heidenreich from Navy.
Navy. Yeah, I like that guy.
That's such a Sean Payton pick.
Mm-hmm.
He's like actually a pretty good player.
He is.
So I wouldn't even be mad at that.
Is it okay? So is it a hot take to say that he could be one of those players that gets taken in round 4?
Based on the kind of history, I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's probably too high, but you're talking about teams that take. We took RJ Harvey in the second round, and no one thought that was going to happen. So
Jacksonville did.
You never know. Well, okay, whatever. We took Pat Bryant in the third round, and no one thought that was going to happen.
Jacksonville did.
You're damn right.
Throw another one out there.
But Jacksonville did. Because they wanted Pat Bryant.
Bryant would probably be.
Any other positions you guys feel like that could actually? Let's go with this, because Jordan mentioned the idea about taking a tackle. It's not sexy. Depends on what your definition of sexy is, though. But the idea of going trenches, right, with, if you will, like your back-to-back picks, meaning like if they traded in, that's probably my favorite scenario. That's probably why I keep bringing it up, is actually taking your player at 62 and then taking one of your picks at 108 or 111 and then coming into day 3 and then getting another top 100 player. So just a world where maybe you're solidifying your trenches with, I don't know if he'll be there, but I can't get the thought out of my brain about just overall the fit, the versatility, the aura of Jennings Dunker with the Broncos at 62. You take him at 62 and then you fly back into day 3, and that's when you take maybe a Chris McClellan who seems to be rising, or someone of those likes, if you will. That, what are you going with, Jordan? What are you going with?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe do you want a 6'9", 350-pound offensive tackle that you can develop?
That got bulldozed multiple times at the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we're doing that in the end zone where the paint is slippery, which is beyond me. Yeah, we need to be walking away with Markel Bell in this draft. Or now I'm going to go apeshit.
Is Markel Bell your Emmett Johnson, like to mine, as far as being a little bit biased?
Well, I mean, Markel Bell is actually good, though. So, I'm actually,
Emmett Johnson is good, though.
But, yeah, I mean, Markel Bell, I mean, I don't see a reason why the Broncos would not go for him. I honestly don't. He doesn't have to start next year, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You can develop him and get him more consistent with his fundamentals, and then he can become a starter in the future easily. I mean, the fact that a 6'9", 350-pound offensive tackle may be drafted late second round, maybe even third round, which is probably where he's going to go in the third round, is crazy.
Maybe the appropriate question to ask, and this is not just 62, is this the year? Is this the year
we draft a tackle?
Is this the year we draft a tackle?
We better.
I don't know.
We have to.
As long as we're throwing out just hot takes, and this is not a player that we are going to be taking, because
you can't say that because you never know.
We're not taking this guy because where he would go, we don't need another wide receiver. But hot take, part of the reason why Cole Payton, the quarterback from North Dakota State, is blowing up so much is because of Bryce Lance. And Bryce Lance is a great wide receiver who I would love
to talk about a fast riser.
But we cannot take him. There's no, we're not gonna take him. We don't need him. He's gonna go too high for us. It's not gonna happen. But he's so good.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things I'm kind of leaning on it because it's like
It's probably not even a hot take anymore because he's kind of huge. But
yeah, well, because it's one of the reasons why like you really kind of have to consider everything, and it's one of the reasons why I'm not ruling out the possibility of the spicy, which is how many times have they come out and said we like what we have, right? Like we like the wide receiver room that we have, and then they draft Pat Bryant. Like they added Jalen Waddle, right? Like, the amount of times they added Troy Franklin, right? In that same, the same class. And so it's like, do you really like what we have? Because the other idea is like, and look, it's not popular in terms of my overall standing for pick 62. When I am actually talking about the spicy, but I'm at least entertaining the idea of like one not being surprised by it, and would be Chris Bell at 62. I just, like it's one where he had his injury, he very well could be available there at 62. They also could be entertaining the idea of life after Cortland Sutton in a year or two, right? I'm at least entertaining that idea. And then, of course, the other one, too, that I think is very much a possibility, who, in fact, Mel Kiper mocked to the Denver Broncos, is Caleb Banks. Caleb Banks had his leg injury, I believe it was. Was it the Senior Bowl? Or was it a pro day? But, and then lo and behold, there's been some rumblings that, he might leak into the second round. Well, the Broncos apparently are taking a visit with him, right? Like taking a visit with him. And so I wouldn't be the least bit shocked if Caleb Banks is there at 62 or they entertain a small trade up for a guy like Caleb Banks.
Yeah, he's an interesting name because he for sure has the talent of a first rounder. It was just that injury has kind of knocked him off. And I hate talking good about Florida players, but I mean, he does have the rare size and talent that goes with it.
Says the guy who wants Kyle Pitts.
I mean, I don't really want Kyle Pitts. I'd rather have Laporta.
I'd have to Raiders. I'd have to do you might be right. As far as there could be two foot injuries. Obviously, that's never stopped someone in the past for a team taking a player, but Caleb Banks, I mean, that would be a very interesting name, Brandon, at 62, where is defensive line probably maybe the one position we're not talking enough about in terms of 62?
Probably. I mean, Caleb Banks could fall that far because he had that broken foot injury at the combine, I think. Yeah, which really sucks for him because he's a good player. But I do think like we probably are not. That's a second foot injury. That kind of sucks. But
yeah,
I do think like, yeah, you're probably right. Defensive line is the area we are not talking enough about because we need to take someone there, and we probably are going to take someone there. And it could even be pick 62. You never know. You don't know what's going to happen, and that's where it's interesting. We're talking about linebackers and tight ends here, and then the Broncos are just going to take a defensive tackle at 62, and probably some fans are going to be upset, but I would be all for it.
So who would some players be at 62 for defensive tackles?
I mean, if Caleb Banks is there, that would be not even terribly surprising right now, but that would be amazing. I think of
the names that come to mind.
Of the rest of the names, like Chris McClellan is probably like the most likely to be there. If you're looking for more of like the size,
seems to be a riser too.
Yeah. You also have R. Mason Thomas. He's not going to be there. He's like absolutely everyone's draft crush right now. If you're looking for more of like the tweener, he's smaller. He's not going to make it to 62. Everyone loves him.
Dominic Orange would be another one that would be there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at Nick Barrett from South Carolina. I'm surprised that on a couple big boards he's like going up and down. He kind of fits the Broncos' vision in terms of draft. And what they look for in players. He was a captain at South Carolina. He's an incredible pass rusher, and he's quick for an interior defensive lineman. So I would not be surprised if they go after him. I would kind of like him.
Grayson Halton's another one I would throw out there. That probably will be there at 62, maybe even a little bit earlier than the 108s and the 111s. But Grayson Halton is another one. So, obviously, Dominic Orange is, I believe, probably a true nose, just a true D tackle. Like he's an immovable object, if you will, when it comes to that.
David Blade Jr. from Miami. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I wouldn't draft him if I'm being quite honest. I think he's a little undersized for.
Let's talk about something. Let's talk about as far as players later, but also players later, and then also as far as maybe positions like we just mentioned D-line, we mentioned wide receiver. We can just kind of throw as far as like positions that you'd like them to kind of focus on maybe a little bit later. We don't necessarily need to talk about like those last two picks of the entire NFL draft. But I will say I do think safety is a very interesting one when it comes to probably 62 and the range from then on to the rest of the draft.
Yes.
It's funny you mentioned safety because I had one name I wanted to also kind of talk about. And it's interesting because he kind of fits into both molds. But Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh could be a linebacker, but he also could be a safety. And it depends on how you use him. And if we pick him, you never know. You never know what you're going to get. But I do think I would love to have him on our team. He's just so explosive. His size is where it's weird. He's 6 foot 220. It's like that's not really linebacker size. Maybe they think he's more of like a safety, and I wouldn't even be upset if we decide to use him as a safety because, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the last year of Brandon Jones. I think he's going to be a free agent after this year. I might be wrong, but I do think safety is something we need to look at. And if you take him, it could be you go one way or the other. Maybe you decide he's your linebacker. Maybe you decide he's your safety, but Kyle Lewis is kind of an intriguing option. Now, the downside is, you look at Vance Joseph's history with guys that don't have a set position, and that also scares me a little bit.
Well, and also one where it's the both, where he's going to be drafted, but they don't know whether or not they could use him. Yeah, it's the it is the last year. He's a free agent in 2027. But like that's the thing. It's like they also need a third safety, right?
They do
that as much as there's one person here who's a big fan of, of the JL Skinner fan club. It probably wouldn't hurt to get some competition in there, right? Like it wouldn't hurt to get competition in there. And for as much as we talk about versatility and we talk about it at the range of 62, there is a player that I would very much entertain. He's one of my favorite players in this entire draft, and that's Keontae Scott.
Boom. Yup. I would do it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even think about it twice.
Because it's just like where you kind of get into a bit of a frustrating aspect is, well, then what do you do with Jade Barron, right? So
you trade him for Devon Chen.
Yeah, the predominantly orange trade. There was offer there. We love you, Lou. But no, it was just like that's where it kind of makes you wonder. Or because he can play linebacker, you maybe operate it in the same way that some teams did Tevin Smith. I know that's a name that kind of people forgot about, but Tevin Smith was like only 200 20 pounds, and he played linebacker, for probably a good 5 to 7 years, and he was really good at linebacker for Jacksonville. He was one of the linebackers as far as that high-flying Jacksonville defense, in the 2015s or whatever it was. He was a really good linebacker. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if the Broncos kind of looked at it. I mean, heck, it was very minimal, but they did play Jade Barron and linebacker at times. So I wouldn't be surprised maybe if there was a team that was kind of looking at that as maybe a true hybrid type of situation. So, but Keontae Scott, man, he's such a fun player to watch.
Yeah, if I could just real quick
have the floor.
If I could be guaranteed one player in the draft
from Miami
in general, it'd be Keontae Scott, even though I don't think it's realistic because I know Mike McDonald of the Seahawks is going to draft him. He's going to be a perennial all-pro for him in his defense, and I'm going to be really mad when it happens. But if Keontae Scott is available there, and
what if he's a Raider
too, I might cry. And I'm saying that for a fact. But in a realistic scenario, if there's one player that I know is going to be available in the Broncos draft later on, it's not even Markel Bell. It's Jacoby Thomas, safety from Miami. I'm in love with that guy. Just put on his highlights, his tape. You will see how hard of a hitter he is. That guy is going to be. I think he's the gem of the draft class. Can't believe how undervalued he is in this draft.
So let me ask you this, because obviously we were talking a little bit of Keontae Scott. Where would you've watched him enough? What would you do with him? Put yourself in the shoes of Vince Joseph and everything, and you're putting him on, this defense. What would you do?
I would,
knowing what we know about the defense right now, players, positions.
I would have him be at corner and then at safety. I'll move him around. I really would. If I would have to stick with one position, I think he's going to be better as that.
Safety?
Yeah, maybe as a safety, but in the box type. But I don't know, man. Him as a nickel corner is scary. I mean, I know Jaquan McMillan has been awesome. He really has. I'm not trying to say anything about him, but Keontae Scott he's a playmaker, man. He really is. I wouldn't even be surprised if you can have a combination between PS2 Scott and McMillan and just have them go out there and play ball. I mean,
do you prefer it at corner? Or do you prefer it at safety or linebacker?
No, I wouldn't prefer at linebacker. I think he may be a bit small for a true linebacker thing. But as a dime linebacker, for sure. But I would say nickel corner just to play on the safe side. He was so good.
Let's continue the theme of safety, though. I think that's a position that we kind of go forward with, that they have to add someone to the room, right? Because here's the way to probably look at it is that there's a couple ways to look at it. They moved on from PJ Locke because they feel comfortable about where things are with J.L. Skinner to give him that third safety spot, right? Or there's another player in this draft that they can target and go after, that could possibly be that third safety. And obviously there is a safety coach. There's a new safety coach in the building. His name, of course, is Doug Belk, who's got a lot of USC ties. And there are 2 talented USC safeties in this draft right now. And I believe it's what is it? Is it Ramsey? Yeah, Kamari Ramsey and Bishop Fitzgerald. So yeah, it's one where we definitely can probably roll with the idea that they want to see what Skinner has, but adding to the room and adding a player that maybe has a bit of some familiarity in Fitzgerald or Ramsey. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we walk out of the draft with. I think we're guaranteed a safety guy coming out of the draft. I think you can put your money on that. You just have to.
Brandon?
Yeah. I want Kyle Lewis. So
I wrote about Kyle 2 days ago, and I had him as a linebacker.
you did? Okay.
But
Devon-
that guy's
he's
an
too
ass. He
small?
can play everywhere.
For a linebacker?
He played linebacker at the Senior Bowl for whatever
Yeah.
it's worth.
But I mean,
I think
he
he
could be
could
one
do
hell of
either
a
one.
safety though.
Yeah.
Well, and there are pretty, if I'm not mistaken,
That's
there,
what I want. It could be either one.
there are successful stories of linebackers that get converted from safety to linebacker and work at the next level. Divine Diablo was one. Right? We have a Raiders fan in the chat. Would be remiss if we didn't talk about Divine Diablo. Diablo was a safety turned linebacker, and he kind of worked out well, right? I think Matt Milano was another one, safety turned linebacker. He obviously is a free agent, but he was really good with Buffalo, like really good with Buffalo when he was healthy. So there's a few successful stories in there about a safety turned linebacker, and obviously Jamal Adams is another one, safety turned linebacker. But a lot of that just ended up being play style and everything that he kind of turned himself into. So there's successful stories in there that I wouldn't be surprised if teams do view him as a linebacker. I'm also convinced that Kyle Lewis, Brandon, is on our short list of players that we're interested in just because of the fact that we alluded to is Vince Joseph. He loves versatile players. He doesn't know how to use them. I'm pretty convinced that he's on the short list of players that we would be interested in linebacker.
That'd be really interesting.
So what are some other positions kind of going off of this?
It's not a position we're going to target. So let me just get that out of the way now.
But you would like to go after?
No, not even. But I read it somewhere. I forgot where. Maybe you guys can refresh my brain. I did read somewhere that the Broncos were doing their homework on a quarterback for maybe a backup quarterback. Right? Or was I reading things? Because Stidham I saw a thing that Stidham may be
Trey Bates
out because teams are interested in him and we may look at a backup quarterback. I'm not saying we have to.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys in the back end of the draft that could be a serviceable backup.
There was a draft that even though he had Drew Brees, he went and drafted a quarterback. Sean Payton did. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Garrett Grayson, I believe, from CSU, I believe. That might be the name. It might be a different CSU name that's escaping me. But no, I mean, yeah, that's probably a position where I wouldn't be surprised if they take one. And when you get to be like later on the draft, when it comes to like the 7th round picks or something like that, frankly, at that point, I don't care who they take. You know, it's
you're not going to care who we take as Mr. Irrelevant.
Unless you're a 49ers fan and that 49ers, player turns into be Brock Purdy, who's, one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. But if I could, my dad's going to kill me because here I am, I'm praising about the guy, and we would always laugh whenever we play them because just the talent level that we always saw with him. But obviously getting the chance to see him at the Senior Bowl and hearing him talk and express himself and being there at interviews, I'm kind of sold. I wouldn't be surprised if Luke Altmaier would be a bit of a target for Sean Payton. He's smart. He's got a high IQ. I would not be the least surprised if the Broncos wanted to bring him in as a third quarterback.
If I'm not mistaken, I also read that maybe we were interested in the UConn quarterback, if I'm not mistaken.
UConn quarterback.
Joe. His last name starts with an F. I thought I had read that somewhere, or he took a visit. So I don't know, something like that. Maybe we had talked to him.
Oh, Joe Fagnano.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Could happen. But I don't know. It's the QB position's kind of like. I will say this has been a really popular one with people in the comments, but you take a quarterback, but then you have him play another position, and that would be
here's the trick: you take a quarterback, you keep him as a quarterback. You're probably going to have to play your backup at some point because every team has to play a backup for at least a game. You let him get you through some of the dark times. You have him for a couple of years. Then when he's gone out there and proven that he can actually be somewhat successful, even in the backup role, you let him walk. Someone else signs him for more money than you would be wanting to pay him, and you get a comp pick back. That's the path.
A 7th round comp pick.
You get a good backup. Maybe not. Quarterbacks get paid, dude. I don't know. I'm not saying they're going to be like you're going to hit on it all the time, but I'm thinking like in a couple of years, that Malik Willis deal could be used on a lower tier quarterback that's not as good. You could get a 4th round pick back from it.
Agree. Doesn't happen often though.
And in the meantime, you get a backup quarterback that can be effective for you.
It doesn't happen often though, but no, you're right. It happens. Like it's something that happens.
Quarterback room is so old anyway, right? We need to bring some youth in it, That's all I hear is this quarterback room is so old.
By the way, speaking of quarterbacks, if you guys get a chance, and you haven't yet had a chance to read Bo Nix's article that was written at the Players Tribune to his daughter Riley, it's one of the better reads you'll see from either player or person. It kind of got me choked up a little bit as far as that. So it's a phenomenal article that was written at the Players Tribune. So if you haven't, please go check it out. It's a phenomenal read, and it is well worth any time reading, toilet reading, sitting on the couch. Just go check it out. So kind of rounding things off, because I think we spent a pretty good deal on some of the players, right? Like maybe on some of the positions and everything. Unless there was some other position, Brandon or Jordan, that maybe you wanted to just kind of talk about maybe a little bit more. But like, I think we kind of spent a pretty good deal, on some of the players and positions a little bit.
Yeah, I think we did. Again, I want me some Jacoby Thomas on this team. All right, I just gotta say that once again. I need me some Jacoby Thomas on this team.
Brandon, is there another player or position that maybe you wanted to kind of focus on?
I think I said everything. I said all my guys.
So we end all of that because we don't know if we're going to have enough time for it next week, because Wednesday is going to be our first round mock draft, where we go pick by pick by pick by pick to 32. Broncos don't have a pick, so we can sit back and truly enjoy it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And Raider Zach, if you're actually on the stream still, you might actually enjoy this, because we are going to have a person hop on stream with us. He was actually the first person I connected with at the Senior Bowl. And of all things, he lives in Colorado. But it is Levi Dombro, who writes for Just Blog Baby over at Fansided. He has a bunch of Raiders content. So we're going to have him on, and we'll do a pick-by-pick selection where, yes, we came prepared. Of course, every single year with the with the draft music. So, but yeah, he will be on there. I'm in talks with Andy NFL that he might be joining us as well that day, as well as David Talks Broncos. That David Talks Broncos will join us. So it's going to be a bit of a more crowded year this year, guys. Like as far as like some of the stuff, but we will all be assigned teams. I'll let you guys know, obviously beforehand, but. Yeah, so and I think the one thing we might change is we probably won't do any trades, just because there's going to be so many people, and kind of going through all the hoops and ensuring that stuff like that and everything. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun, and it should be a lot of fun in regards to the NFL draft. So that's the fun exercise we do every year and every Wednesday before the NFL draft. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. And so I end all of that, as I said, because we're probably not going to have a lot of time. The floor is now ours. The Broncos are on the clock. At any point, I'm going to change this up a little bit. At any point, and they will select who. Make your prediction that the Broncos will select this player in the NFL draft. Could be Mr. Irrelevant. It could be that other 7th round pick. Or it could be 170, 111, 108, or 62. Who are they taking?
You want to go first, Brandon?
Sure. So this is kind of also my pick 62 guy that I would not be surprised if we took him, and if I went linebacker instead of tight end when we asked this question before, this would have been I would have said. What's that?
Is this going to be the sin backer? The safety linebacker?
No, it's not going to be. It's not going to be Kyle Lewis. Although I would love Kyle Lewis. It's Josiah Trotter, and I just think Josiah Trotter, as a thumper, he's just like the perfect thumper linebacker.
It's another one we didn't talk about.
Incredibly physically, and he is actually also like the son of
Jeremiah,
Pro Bowler, Eagles linebacker, and the younger brother of a different Eagles linebacker who I think also made some Pro Bowls. So he has NFL bloodlines, and he is just a good linebacker. He's not going to blow you away in coverage, but how many linebackers in college are blowing you away in coverage? But he's incredible against the run, and I think he's going to be able to come in and improve the linebacking unit pretty quickly. So if we don't go tight end, that's who I'm saying.
But this is your shot. You are Babe Ruth standing on home plate, aiming that you're hitting a home run, Brandon. So it's at pick 62. Are you telling me that at pick 62 it's Josiah Trotter?
I do think so.
Okay. But this is a fun little thing. I don't know if
it's not the sexy name, but I think it's the realistic name.
I think it's very fitting because we never talked about Josiah Trotter when it came to those linebackers when we talked about him. So that seems very fitting. It would lead it all up to a Trotter pick. I will say this. I don't know if there was any sort of conversing over the years and networking over the years or how close they got. But Sean Payton's first year in coaching, if I'm not mistaken, like significant coaching, was with the Eagles. And his first 2 years was Jeremiah Trotter's first 2 years at the NFL level. I don't know. That could be something. It could be nothing. I don't know that answer. We also know that the NFL is also a world of connections. So, Jordan, the floor is yours. Babe Ruth standing on the plate, calling a home run. He's calling the shot.
Not going with pick 62. This is going to be a day 3 pick. You talk about connections. It's not like we just got someone from a certain building to be their new running backs coach. So he does have a lot of familiarity with the guys at that college he was with. I I do think the Broncos are going to get Jacoby Thomas. I do. I think it's going to happen. Fabian Upshaw, get that done for us. Oh, you sound muffled there. We couldn't hear you.
I think you break it up.
Is he taken at 170?
Yeah.
Taking at 170.
Yeah, I can see him around that range, yeah.
Okay. I will say that the Denver Broncos do not take a tight end at 62. And I'm just going to continue the theme. I think let's continue it this way. This is one of those years where the players that they took visits with, they'll take a player or two from players that they visited with.
Going opposite of their ways.
Yeah. And I will say that they draft Nate Borkature from A&M. Really good inline blocking tight end, one of the best blocking tight ends in the entire class, with some really good upside. As far as to work with at the NFL level, he really was doing some work against some of those really good linebackers at the Senior Bowl. I'm gonna say Nate Borkature at 170.
All right.
So it's be a lot of fun. Also, as far as a little bit of a future note, but after the NFL draft, we are going to be doing a show. Obviously, it'll be with these two, and maybe actually if they can get a chance to get a guest on, but it'll be these two. I will be gone for 2 weeks. I'll be out of the country. So they will be manning the controls after the draft. But also, and this is most important, a programming note. We are going to be moving to Thursday. Thursday will be the primary, barring some foreseen situations where we have a guest or there's a Thursday night football game with the Denver Broncos. Or just something, schedule-wise where it just works better with the three of us. We'll be moving to Thursday at 7 o'clock. We're bumping it up 30 minutes, and we are bumping it to 7 o'clock on Thursdays so that, and this is kind of one of the big reasons, is that there's going to be a Broncos show every single night from Tuesday to Friday. Is that Tuesday we have the 5280 podcast, Wednesday we have the Wild Wild West show, and then Thursday will be the Mainly Broncos podcast, and then Friday's Broncos Buzz with Broncos Breakdown and Kona and with Spence. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. That'll be after the draft, and these guys will be the debut of the new day schedule, if you will, for Thursday at 7. So thank you guys to everybody. Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
I said Cam's ducking it. He's ducking the release.
I know I'm ducking the release by enjoying some nice Italian food and some Grecian wine on a cruise. Thank you to everybody that was hopping in the chat. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for the MHRT Network page, as well as hitting the subscribe button for the Mainly Broncos page, where we will be posting clips from this show. And you'll also see some clips from other shows that are over there on the YouTube Shorts page, as well as TikTok and Instagram. That's where you'll be able to see some of those shorts. Again, thank you guys so much. Make sure you also follow the guys. Follow Brandon at Brandon Miller PO. Follow Jordan at Jordan T. Lopez. And also follow myself at Cam Parker PO. It's been a phenomenal show. We will see you the Wednesday before the NFL draft. And without further ado, God bless Bo Nix.
Let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down.